Stone and bronze, iron and steel. Welcome back to the Cracking Ice and Fire channel, where we wield the tools of the age of silicon to unlock the mysteries of A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm your host, Professor Mage. Glad to see you back. Welcome to the premiere episode of Is That Your A Song of Ice and Fire Final Answer? Today's final answer is addressing what taking a tiger woman to wife actually means. We start with the briefest background for this final answer to make sense. Most all of us recognize that the gift city of Gougosis is a reference to Kokosis or Gnosis on the Isle of Crete, which is famous for the myth of the Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull monster imprisoned in a vast labyrinth. Next, we note the echoes, the parallels between the stories of Uther Hightower and Maris the Maid, during God's grief and Eleni, and the Grey King stealing fire from the storm god and marrying a mermaid, suggesting she was the fire, the torch, especially given that Maris and Eleni happened to mean light from the sea. Across all of A Song of Ice and Fire, we don't hear a great deal of stories about gods interfering in marriages, yet here we hear the same story 3 times. Must be a pretty important story. As we all know, Zeus is the storm god in Greek mythology, and it is also common knowledge that he spends time on Earth in the form of a white bull. The story goes the Minotaur was the love child of the white bull and the queen of King Minos of Crete. The queen's compulsion to mate with the white bull and bear the Minotaur was punishment meted out by Poseidon, lord of the deep, as King Midas reneged on the pledge to sacrifice the white bull in honor of Poseidon. A true monstrous punishment, the Minotaur fed on human tributes, and the tributes were sent into his labyrinth to meet their end. Several heroes entered the labyrinth to kill the Minotaur, but met their own death, until Theseus, as the Greek tale goes. What does this have to do with the divine prohibition against taking a tiger woman to wife, you ask? Well, this divine law was provided at the dawn of civilization, prior to uniformity in writing, where the use of vowels was somewhat optional, and I believe it got kind of garbled along the way. As I mentioned in prior videos, I went rooting around in the Dothraki language because it seems that they had an eons-old, stable, primitive culture whose language might preserve old information across the eons. After eons of retelling and transcription that's not standardized and likely abbreviated for convenience, we have an answer to what it means to take a tiger woman to wife. It is a mistake due to compression and abbreviation that focuses on consonants and confusing near homonyms, allowing an altered interpretation of the words. We demonstrate a likely transition across meanings, revisiting the tale of Uther Hightower, Maris the Maid, and Argoth Stoneskin. We're told we don't know if he was a giant or a man. False dichotomy. He was neither. The name Argoth was a name created by compressing his description in words. And here is the Dothraki that describes Mr. Stoneskin, translated word by word. Au means dark, Roa, beast, Ogo, meaning head of an animal, and Gerich, meaning to lack. There was a natural linguistic compression of phonemes over eons that became mistaken for a simple name. He was a dark beast with the head of an animal and angry that he had Maris, his tribute, stolen. He was lacking the promised tribute. Mankind did it again. They reneged on providing the promised tribute. Okay. And what does this have to do with the prohibition of taking a tiger woman to wife? Well, the word tiger in Dothraki is Rachel. The appropriate Dothraki word to describe carrying a child in the womb is loshat. Back in the day, that pretty much specified you took someone to wife if they were carrying your child. So Rachel loshat would mean a tiger gotten with child, or taking a tiger woman to wife. Now here is a near homonym for Rachel loshat. Rao means beast, Azo, gift, and Aloshat, pledge. Rachel loshat, the beast's gift pledged The divine prohibition was not against taking a tiger woman to wife. The prohibition was against reneging on providing a pledged gift, a breach of divine law. Of course Zeus, the storm god, would be pissed. The Minotaur was his son, regardless of his unfortunate monstrous condition. And it was not just offensive, it was an affront to divine law. And this is not the end of the story. It explains the purpose of the maze found at the bottom of Battle Isle and mazes elsewhere. It also explains why the Dothraki don't take payment, prefer a pledge of gifts. I suspect it also explains the Ironborn's iron price, but I haven't figured that out yet. There's so much more to say on this, but I will limit it to one. The queen of King Midas, the mother of the Minotaur, was named Pasiphae and is literally translated as the light for all. Her name is apt as she's the daughter of Helios, the sun god in Greek mythology. It is almost irresistible to envision Pasiphae as the Lady Maid of Light. It seems she did not just hide her face and turn her back on mankind, but was actively participating in their punishment. By the way, in case you're in need of a top-flight problem solver, an engineer doing proof-of-concept work prior to their PhD in applied statistics, with 20 years' experience at elite academic and consulting positions, someone who loves a tough problem and can explain things, I'm available. Well, that's it for now. See you next video.